LeBron James has cemented himself as one of the game's greatest players in league history. From an 18-year-old kid getting drafted to a 35-year-old man who's playing for the most storied franchise in NBA history, LeBron James has given us memories, both high and lows. Whether you're a fan of LeBron or you're not, we can all agree he's a once-in-a-lifetime talent. Today, we'll be looking at a small, 4-year stretch in the 17-year LeBron James career, his time in the Miami Heat. Firstly, I just want to quickly say the reasoning behind this video in particular is because whilst doing my research for an original LeBron James career timeline video, I found that no one actually had gone in depth on LeBron's time in Miami, so I wanted to break it all down. With that said, if you enjoy these videos, they take me time to make, so I'd really appreciate if you guys could help me out by clicking that like button. It takes 1 second of your time and it really helps my channel grow. If you're new around here and this is the first video you've come across, welcome. Feel free to hit that subscribe button for NBA videos every single week. We're on that road to 350,000 subscribers. With that said, let's get it started. Here's the LeBron James Miami Heat timeline. We begin on May 2nd, 2010. LeBron James is the greatest player in the league, a 25-year-old LeBron who has just won his second MVP award after a season in which he averaged nearly 30 points, 8.5 assists and 7 rebounds per game. This version of Bron was athletically as great as he'd ever been, but had such little help around him that Cleveland once again failed to make the finals despite LeBron doing all he could. The Cavaliers' incompetence to give their franchise star any sort of help meant that he was on the move. The Celtics, led by Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen and Rajon Rondo, were just too good for LeBron to compete up against, and we saw them beat the Cavaliers in 6 games in the second round. We also saw LeBron rip off his Cavaliers jersey, a memory that Cavaliers and NBA fans would remember. Off he went into the free agency world. LeBron ripped his jersey, Cavaliers fans burned his jersey, and the Heat fans bought his jersey. LeBron was officially a Miami Heat player on July 8, 2010. In a moment that will never be forgotten, LeBron James famously announced live on ESPN that he's taking his talents to South Beach, in what's known now as The Decision.
LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
He joined a team with his great friend Dwayne Wade, who had NBA Finals experience, winning with Shaq in 2006. He also joined Chris Bosh, a superstar at the time, coming off an incredible 24-point and 11 rebound season. LeBron was being heavily criticised for making a weak move and joining forces with the 2 other All-Stars, despite the Heat having a mediocre team that season before. Sure, he could have joined any other team, such as the Bulls, the Knicks, the Nets, or even go back to Cleveland, but he chose South Beach. And in the span of just one night, LeBron James became a villain of the NBA. And he played the role of a villain too. On July 9, 2010, Cavaliers then owner Dan Gilbert responded to a LeBron James departure with an open letter saying, "I personally guarantee that the Cleveland Cavaliers will win an NBA championship before the self-titled former king wins one." Well Dan, you were wrong. But sure, a good reason to be pissed off too. Losing your franchise player who's on his way to being one of the greatest players of all time hurts. But maybe if you'd just given him some help, never mind, you get the point. On the same day as Dan Gilbert's comments, July 9, 2010, the Miami Heat threw a massive party to welcome Chris Bosh and LeBron James. Bron famously said the goal was to win multiple championships. Not 2,
not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
Well, if there was any way to help his case for becoming a villain and the most hated player in the NBA, he was definitely doing a good job of it. But if you were a Heat fan, this couldn't be any better feeling. The last time a new Miami Heat star had been recruited, he had promised a championship and he didn't disappoint.
Remember this? 'Cause I'm gonna bring a championship to Miami, I promise.
So off the new Miami Heat squad went. Of course, the Heat opened the season with extraordinary expectations, and any less of a championship was a failure. The Heat were hated, booze after booze, every away game, simply because of this man right here. Sure, he was hated, but did he care? No, he was still the best player in the world, and now he actually had teammates to compete with.
Life is good, you know what I mean?
As any new team, even with their star players, it took some time to mesh. By December 2nd, 2010, the Heat were 12-8, about to face off the Cleveland Cavaliers, the first time LeBron James had ever matched up against Cleveland. LeBron has said he's never seen anything like it before.
I will never forget that day. People were throwing batteries at us.
I remember.
After a slow first half, LeBron then dropped 24 points in the third quarter alone to torch his old squad for 38 points and 8 assists in his return to Cleveland. The Heat would then go on to win 58 games in the 2010-2011 season, which earned them the second seed in the Eastern Conference. The Chicago Bulls were the first seed, which is why many people assume that LeBron didn't win the MVP and instead it was given to Derrick Rose, the youngest MVP winner of all time. Either way, LeBron wasn't worried about the individual accolades. Sure, he probably would have loved to win the MVP that season, but it was time to win his first NBA championship. Now that he had a supporting cast, he was ready. He was about to take his team to the NBA Finals. In the Eastern Conference semifinals, LeBron finally got his revenge on the Boston Celtics, the team that had defeated him last season and eliminated him this time last year, as a member of the Cleveland Cavaliers. But now, on the Miami Heat, he was able to beat their Boston Celtic rival team in 5 games, winning in a dramatic overtime Game 4 in Boston and a huge comeback from behind Game 5 victory at home to finish the series. In the Eastern Conference Finals, the Heat faced up against the Chicago Bulls with the MVP, Derrick Rose. And it was LeBron James who got his revenge on Rose, who stole the MVP trophy away from him that season. And in Game 5, LeBron was too clutch for the Bulls as he ties the game, hits a clutch go-ahead, and then blocks D Rose to finish off the series in 5 games. So we fast forward to here, May 31st to June 13th, the 2011 NBA Finals. The Miami Heat, as expected, were in the NBA Finals, and they were the favourites. Of course, they had LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. The Mavericks had Dirk, and don't get me wrong, they had a great team, but it wasn't the big three Miami Heat. But this Mavericks team was hungry. It was a rematch of the 2006 NBA Finals, and they had a game plan for LeBron James, who didn't know what to do with that game plan. The Mavericks showed the flaws in LeBron James, and that series really made him work for every point. And for that reason, the LeBron James up until this point right here was great, but he wasn't the greatest version of LeBron just yet. Years later in 2018, LeBron would credit his growth as a player to this series. But if you can put yourself back in the shoes of 2011, during the 2011 finals, it was almost inconceivable that this Big 3 Heat team had been knocked out of the NBA Finals, and they had not won an NBA championship. They had mocked Dirk for being sick and paid the price for it.
All right, Dirk almost left it all out on the court, literally, the other night in Game 4. So much so that this one getting a little testy now. LeBron James, Dwayne Wade seemingly having a little fun getting onto the bus today after the shoot-around at Dirk's expense.
Hey, yo, let's roll. Oh, did y'all hear me call? I think I'm safe.
All right, while Wade and James were mocking Dirk's sickness today, LeBron James has been the one heavily scrutinized.
They had talked all this talk at the start of the year.
Not 3, not 4, not 5.
And they'd lost to an underdog Dallas Mavericks squad. The worst part is that they won Game 1. They choked a 15-point lead in Game 2, and they won Game 3. So they easily could have been up 3-0 in this series. They also lost Game 4 by 3 points, with LeBron James scoring just 8 points for the entire game. So instead of the Miami Heat sweeping, or even being up 3-1, they lost in the NBA Finals. It became a learning experience for LeBron, who averaged just 17.8 points per game in that series, which was well below his season average. The offseason saw LeBron James change for the better. It was the 2011 Finals experience that saw him reflect on his career thus far, which had at this stage been filled with disappointment. Sure, he was Rookie of the Year, a multiple-time MVP, but he'd been ringless with 2 chances in the NBA Finals and eliminated in every other playoff series. He stated he had lost his love for the game. He said, "It basically turned me into somebody I wasn't."
What does that turn you into?
It basically turned me into somebody I wasn't. You know, you start to hear the villain, you know, now you have to be the villain, and I started to buy into it. You know, I started to play the game of basketball at a level or at a mind state that I never played at before.
How different do you want it to be this season?
Oh, it's totally different.
So no more LeBron in the black villain hat?
No, I'll leave that to his game. His game can be the villain hat guy. But me personally, I'm not that guy.
We fast forward to November 2011. This was the 2011 offseason, which saw LeBron James work on his game to become a better shooter and a better all-around scorer. He worked out with Kevin Durant, although young, the perfect player to learn off. KD, even though he was so young, was still the top scorer in the league and a man that LeBron James could learn off. They worked and trained together during the offseason, and it would actually help KD, who made the finals that season, and LeBron James, who became an all-around better scorer. In addition, LeBron had pushed away from the villain narrative and started to enjoy the game for what it was. Wade had handed him the keys to the car, and LeBron settled into the star of the Miami Heat, whilst Dwayne Wade took a backseat, second option role. It was a lockout shortened season, but LeBron still averaged 27 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. But we backtrack somewhat to February 12, 2012. LeBron James was in Cleveland about to take on the Cavaliers and practicing when he gets asked a question about a possible return to Cleveland in the future. Keep in mind, this LeBron James was in his second season in Miami. He was ringless and still not on the best terms with Dan Gilbert, yet he had still opened the door for a comeback to his old team. He said, "I think it would be great."
I think it would be great. It would be fun. To play in front of these fans again. I had a lot of fun times. Like I said, my 7 years here. But you can't predict the future. Hopefully I continue to stay healthy. I'm here as a Miami Heat player, and I'm happy where I am now. But I don't rule that out in no sense. And if I decide to come back, hopefully the fans will accept me.
Now, comment down below what you think. Was it always LeBron's intention to go back to Cleveland no matter what? I'd like to hear what you think down below in the comment section, so feel free to pause the video and let me know. Anyway, back on the timeline. It's now May 12, 2012. LeBron is back on top of the NBA world, winning his third NBA MVP award. But his quote is saying,
"This is not the award I want, ultimately. I want that championship."
The next stop on the timeline destination is May 28, 2012. LeBron is facing off with the Boston Celtics Big Three once again, led by Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and of course Rajon Rondo, in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics were playing much better than the previous season, and this was a battle of the Big Threes. The series brought the best out of King James. In Game 6, with the Celtics about to close LeBron out once again, LeBron had one of the best games of his career, dominating with 45 points and 15 rebounds, showing how much he had improved even in the span of just one season. His shooting had become a phenomenal part of his game compared to the year prior where he was shut out by the Dallas Mavericks. And the Miami Heat was able to force the Celtics to a 7-game series, with LeBron finally getting his revenge on the Celtics and providing a reality check into why he joined the Miami Heat in the first place, to actually compete against the star-studded lineup of the Boston Celtics. And it was the Miami Heat who would advance to the NBA Finals. And that brings us to the next stop on the timeline, June 21st, 2012, the start of the NBA Finals. And we know what happens from here. After 8 seasons in the NBA and now 2 in Miami, LeBron had finally got his revenge, finally got his chance to win an NBA championship, and was able to achieve his ultimate dream. The Miami Heat defeated a young Oklahoma City Thunder team in just 5 games. On a side note, I actually made a timeline video for this Thunder team just a few days ago, so feel free to check it out. Anyway, LeBron also wins the Finals MVP, and his famous line,
It's about damn time.
Over the entire postseason, he dominated the playoffs with averages of 30.3 points, 9.7 rebounds, and 5.6 assists per game, far better than the year before. On August 12, 2012, LeBron took some time away from the NBA, but he was still playing basketball, as part of the Olympic team during his Miami years, as part of the Redeem team with LeBron James adding another Olympic gold medal, joining only Michael Jordan as the only other person to win an NBA regular season MVP, NBA Finals MVP, an NBA championship, and a gold medal in the same year. The next year is arguably LeBron's greatest ever season. He was still super athletic, he played great defensively, and could actually shoot the ball, as one of the better shooters in the entire league, shooting 40% from the 3-point range, which literally made him unguardable. By May 5th, 2013, it had been a year of dominance, another MVP, and in June of 2013, another Miami Heat NBA championship. As the Heat go back-to-back, this title though meant more than anything else. This title was different. A year prior saw the Heat face a young Thunder team, but the Miami Heat were clear favourites then. Now, they played a San Antonio Spurs team with experience, and a team that had defeated LeBron James back in 2007, Tim Duncan, Greg Popovich, Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, and now they even had Kawhi Leonard. LeBron James this time had a crew now. He was able to go to war, and this wasn't 2007 anymore with the Cleveland Cavaliers team that had nobody. This was the Miami Heat team that was actually able to compete up against this Spurs team. And they went to war. It was a battle, and boy, was it a battle. Ray Allen had joined the team this season as well after the Heat defeated the Boston Celtics last season. Ray Allen actually made a move that was similar to LeBron James and joined the Miami Heat, but he played a vital role in the Miami Heat's success this season, and we all know the last second heroics that he was able to provide in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. But this wasn't possible without LeBron James' performance of 16 points, 2 assists, 1 block in the fourth quarter alone of Game 6. And in Game 7, LeBron took what he learnt from the 2011 NBA Finals and had an answer for the San Antonio game plan, which was similar to the Dallas Mavericks game plan. He hit 9 shots outside of the paint. The Spurs were daring LeBron to shoot, and that's exactly what he did. And they won back-to-back NBA championships. This series was so intense that even though everybody hated LeBron James and he was seen as a villain outside of Miami, people respected him for what he was able to do in this series, which was why this 2013 NBA championship was still respected and still classified as an NBA championship win, unlike Kevin Durant's championships of 2017 and 18, which of course they still technically count, but many fans choose to bypass what Kevin Durant did simply because he already joined a championship level team. So after the Game 7 win, LeBron James said,
Listen, for me, I can't worry about what everybody say about me. I'm LeBron James from Akron, Ohio, from the inner city. I'm not even supposed to be here. That's enough. Every night I walk into the locker room, I see a number 6 with James on the back. I'm blessed. So what everybody say about me off the court don't matter. I ain't got no worries.
Congratulations, LeBron.
This quote is still so famously remembered for the championship that LeBron was able to bring Miami and his impact in these games. Even though Kevin Durant went on to win Finals MVP, people can't remember what he said about his Finals MVP speech. So LeBron James, whilst even joining a super team, was still highly respected for winning his NBA championships. Yet, he was heading into the final year of his time in Miami, and what we know now as his last year in Miami. The 2014 season saw a masked LeBron drop his career-high 61 points that season, and he played really well as usual, except this time, the Miami Heat looked a tad slower. With the aging Dwayne Wade and an older squad that looked somewhat burnt out after making the NBA Finals for 3 years in a row, going on 4 years, it meant that it was a different Miami Heat team this time. And we fast forward to the 2013-14 playoffs and June 5th, 2014. The Miami Heat weren't the same team as the previous season or the year before. They looked slower, Wade looked older, and it was LeBron who was the only one that looked ready to play. Yes, Chris Bosh was still amazing and an all-star, and Dwayne Wade was still a great player, but not like the past seasons, especially Dwayne Wade, who was suffering from knee injuries, and it was ultimately up to LeBron, who led the team in scoring every game in the NBA Finals, but he couldn't bring the Heat to three-peat, and they lost to a San Antonio Spurs team in 5 games. After all, LeBron was right. They were just a much better basketball team. On July 11, 2014, in a piece in the Sports Illustrated, LeBron didn't have a dramatic press conference like he did in Miami in 2010. He made an article, he thanked the Miami Heat fans, and it was a new start, a fresh start, for his chance to return to Cleveland, and an effort to bring his hometown team a first NBA championship. He said, "I'm ready to accept the challenge, I'm coming home." And the rest is history. At the time, the thought was if he could provide them with a ring, all would be forgotten. No hate letters, no boos, no villain, just a phenomenal player with an NBA championship in Cleveland. And the king delivered. And that's LeBron James' timeline of the Miami Heat. A crazy short stint. It felt so much longer than 4 seasons. It was a total of 294 games, which in retrospect isn't a very long time. But that was the timeline of LeBron James in Miami. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'd really appreciate if you guys could leave a like to show your support, subscribe if you're new for NBA content every single week, and feel free to leave a comment letting me know what you thought about the video and telling me what player or team to do next. It's been your boy Nick Smith, I am out, peace.